All right, so before I start, I definitely encourage you to pull out your journals or your notes page on your phone, and I definitely encourage you to take notes because I'll be talking a lot about what I've learned through serving. And last summer, I had the opportunity to go in Operation Barnabas, which for 3 weeks was just constantly serving others and just helping each other grow closer to God. And it was pretty much a family, and it was amazing. I learned a lot through that, so I'll definitely be talking about that. So I definitely encourage you to take notes. So also, if I am going too fast and you're not done writing notes, just yell out, tell me to slow down, and I will go back to it so you can get it down. So tonight I'll be talking about servanthood, and I'll be going through what that means to be a servant for God, characters in the Bible that just exemplified what a servant looks like through trials and hardships, and when it didn't look like in their benefit, and they were out of their comfort zone, and everything was stacked against them. And then also what we should do as servants, what that looks like, and what we should take away from it. So a definition of a servant is a devoted and helpful follower and supporter. So what that is, as servants of Christ, we are, as a definition, devoted and helpful and a follower and a supporter. So that is almost waking up every morning and almost dedicating the day to God. We did that on Operation Barnabas, and it was really cool. And every time, even today, every morning I pray for opportunities. How do you want me to be used? What are the people that you want me to interact with? How can I share your love in some way today? So I definitely also encourage you that every day just pray to God. As you're praying to him, just ask for opportunities and how you can reach him and just reflect his love through your actions. Luke 9:23 says, "Then he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me." So what that means is we need to deny our worldly desires. So we need to deny all those things that are holding us back from being a servant. Even though those are our wants, if God's calling us somewhere else, we need to deny those things and decide to follow him. And I understand it's hard with our busy lives. We're all busy. We go from church to school to work every day. It's just a complete cycle. But you always have to make time and always be open for those opportunities that God might have for you in order to reflect his love through your actions, tell other people about him, and just overall be a good servant for him. Matthew 4:18-22 says, "As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. 'Come follow me,' Jesus said, 'and I will send you out to fish for people.' At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him." So that's just always being ready to follow Jesus. So this goes with stepping out of your comfort zone. He asked these guys to follow him and then become his disciples. That's a huge leap from them. They were literally working with their father, and it was working in the family business. Like, they were working with him, and they saw what was special about Jesus, all the special things that they could do with him, and all the hearts and the lives they could change by following him and being a servant. So that's just a crazy thing. Like, they completely left their lives. Now, I'm not saying that you have to do that now. I'm not saying that you have to completely just quit school and go follow Jesus and being a servant for him. You can be a servant in your school, in your workplace, and that's like the biggest mission field for all of us. It's in the workplace, it's in our schools, it's even in our homes. Everywhere we go, there's always opportunities to share Jesus. And it doesn't have to be directly either. You don't have to just spit the gospel out to everyone you see. People notice that there's something special about you through your actions. If you just do simple things, people will notice that there's something different about you. And they'll even ask. I've had multiple opportunities where people come up to me and say, "Why do you do these things?" And then that's just a gate that opens up. Then you can disciple to them. You can be more of a servant, and you can share the word. Also, Galatians 5:13 says, "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another and humbly in love." So again, that's just denying your earthly desires and choosing to follow God. He died on the cross for all of us, yes, so that we could be set free. But that doesn't mean that we're just going to be able to sit around and do nothing. That means that we're able to get up, go out and serve, go talk to people, and go spread the word of Jesus and say the good things that he's done for us. And something that I used to think when I was younger is that only opportunities are given to people that are like super Jesus freaks and are always on a mission and always moving. But that's not true at all. He died for all of us. He has a plan for all of us. That means he gives opportunities to all of us in order to show God through all of our actions and to show his love and all that he's done for us by dying on the cross and sharing that story with everyone. So my first point is being a servant is a form of worship. And so usually that we consider worship as praying, reading our Bible, doing devotions, or singing worship songs. But also being a servant is also a form of worship. And we actually talked about that in Kingdom Kids this week. And it was really cool because these kids are younger than us, but like Joe said earlier, like even the students feed into you and teach you things. Because we were sitting down in a group, and this kid was so smart. He said serving God and doing things for him, that's also a form of worship. I'm like, holy crap, this kid is right. And I'm going to use that. So worship is the feeling of expression of reverence and adoration for God. And so being a servant is not a selfish act. It's not so, hey, I'm going to impress that girl over there, so I'm going to lift as many chairs as I can to fill the sanctuary. Nothing like that. Being a servant is to glorify God, and like I keep on repeating, it's through your actions that people notice this. So it's to benefit God and to glorify him and show him praise for all he's done by being a servant. It's not a selfish act. You're not doing it to better yourself. You're not doing it to show off or anything or to impress anyone. You're doing it for God because of all the stuff that he's done for you. Deuteronomy 11:13 is, so then obey the commands that I have given you today. Thank you, Alyssa. And love the Lord your God and serve him with all your heart. Also, Hebrews 6:10 says, God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. I think that's just really important because just like worship, and Cody always says how God hears our praises. He hears what we say to him. He hears our prayers. He hears us singing. He also notices the stuff that we do for him, how we serve in our communities, how we serve others, and just how, again, through our actions, and I'm going to go more into that, just the simplest things are able to reflect God's love and all that he's done for us just because of going out of our way and doing something that's usually overlooked. My second point is always be ready for opportunities and always be aware of your surroundings. So I said that in the interview, that the most important thing, I believe, is always be open for opportunities. 2 years ago, I think, or it was a few years ago, we went to a mall at Momentum on the Saturday when we had service projects. And this mall was huge, nothing like the Galleria. It had car dealerships in there. It was amazing. We did amazing things. We were able to, I was in Abby's group with a few other people, and we were able to share God and the gospel with a Tesla dealership worker, which was so cool because he was showing us Teslas, and we were able to share the love of God. So that's just a win-win for both of us. Also, during that time, so this food court was absolutely huge, and we were walking around, and we started talking with this couple, and right away they said, no, we don't need any prayer, thanks though. And then about maybe half an hour later, we were just walking through again, and to be honest, I wasn't paying attention, because I was like, we already hit this, there's already other groups here, I wasn't aware of where I was or my surroundings whatsoever. But Abby pointed out, goes, look, they're waving us over again. And I don't know exactly, remember what they wanted prayer for at all, but I just remember they called us over and we talked to them for like 5 to 10 minutes and we were able to pray with them, and it was just an amazing experience. But that could have been missed just because I wasn't paying attention and I wasn't aware, and I was just focused on getting through more of the mall and finding more people. Also, for opportunities, Philip, I don't know if you guys were here last week, but Joe talked about Philip and how he took the opportunity about talking to the eunuch. And that was a big thing because back then, again, stepping out of your comfort zone is a huge thing about being a servant. With Philip, that was almost like socially unnormal for him to approach the eunuch in the chariot and talk with him. But because he obeyed God and was obedient and followed what God had planned for him, he was able to explain to the eunuch what he was reading and able to baptize him, and then later that eunuch started the Church of Ethiopia. So I think that's just amazing. And I'll talk about it again, how just those acts of being a servant and listening to God and being obedient can do amazing things for other people, and just like how it's almost like a chain reaction. Like the first step was Philip taking the step to talk to the eunuch, baptizing him, now the church in Ethiopia. I mean, that's amazing. That's just for a simple of just telling the eunuch what he was reading, just a simple act like that, and going out of his comfort zone. And other people in the Bible that just in their comfort zones, like Paul and Silas, they were arrested, and they were in a prison cell, and it's just, things were not looking good for them. And so, I mean, personally for me at first, I wasn't thinking, you know what, I'm going to take this as an opportunity, and I'm going to see how I can minister to people and be a servant. I mean, they were chained up. But then during the night, they were worshiping, and then there was an earthquake, and the door to their cell broke open along with the other cells in the prison. And I think what's amazing about that story, and I think you guys should read it sometime, it's really cool, is that the guard woke up and saw that all the doors were broken open. And so during that time, for the guard, if he were to fail his duty, he would probably be executed by his ruler or whatever. And I just think it's really cool because Paul and Silas rushed to him and said, no, everyone's still in their cell, no one escaped, all is fine. I think that's just a cool thing because even in like situations where the odds are stacked against you, and they were in prison, and they were still like, how can I be a servant for God? How can I work today, and how can I share the love of God? And through that act of them staying there and keeping the other inmates in the cells without leaving, and then like talking to the guard and being able to tell him all is good, because the guard was going to kill himself. He had his sword drawn, and he was going to kill himself because he was going to be killed anyway because of the guard's other inmates escaping. And I just think it's really cool because through that, of keeping them in and them not escaping, Paul and Silas were able to minister to the guard, baptize him, and then share the love of God to everyone in their family, which I think is absolutely amazing because, again, it's that chain reaction. They were obedient to God, they stayed where they were supposed to be, and also they were open for opportunities. They were in prison, and yet they were still open for what God had for them. They obeyed God, served him, and then now that guard and his family knew what Jesus was about and knew the love of God. Also, I talked about this on Operation Barnabas, and it's one of my favorite stories. It's Joseph in Genesis. And he's one of my favorite characters because just how he shows his faith in God and how he continues to be a faithful servant, I think is absolutely amazing. It's like a quick run through of the story. Joseph was his father's favorite, and his brothers were really jealous of him, so they sold him into slavery. So already off to a bad start. Then he goes into the chief's house. That was one of the commanders for the Pharaoh, and he was a servant to God, was faithful, even though he was sold into slavery. And this, again, is just out of his comfort zone. Like, he was used to being catered to by his father, being the favorite, not having hard work and stuff like that. And then he's thrown into that life of slavery. Like, that's huge out of your someone's comfort zone for something like that, like a huge transition into someone's life. And I think what the cool thing is he continued to be a faithful servant. But then things aren't in his favor again when Potiphar's wife lies to Potiphar and gets Joseph kicked out of the house, and then he's in prison. But he remains faithful to God. He rises to in command under the warden of the prison and was able to serve God there. And then through that, he was able to serve God even more and showcase the gifts that God has given him by interpreting dreams for the Pharaoh, and ended up becoming second in command of all of Egypt right under Pharaoh, and then helping all of Egypt and surrounding nations deal with the famine that was ahead, just because he was faithful to God and continuing to be an amazing servant, even though the odds were stacked against him. He went from slavery to a worker under the chief's house, then lied about and was in prison, rose to the top there, and then second command of all of Egypt. That's just amazing, again, how just taking those steps and being a servant can get you so far, and then helping others learn about God and sharing their love, I think is just amazing. So my third point is, do not let the task overshadow the purpose. And I learned this on OB, and I was thinking about it again, and it definitely connects into the mall story. So on OB, we went through Pennsylvania, and we were serving different communities, and one day we went to Echo Valley. Don't ask me where it is, because I never heard of it before. But the cool thing was you could shout, and because of the name, Echo Valley, it echoed quite a bit, so that was cool. But we went into the surrounding communities, and we were in groups, and we teamed up with their youth group, and we were supposed to pick trash up along the streets. And that was the task. And so I was totally focused on that. And also focused on just discipling to the younger kids in the youth group, talk to them about momentum, about their life, and how they got involved in the youth group. And so we were about like 10 minutes in, and we didn't get any trash, and we didn't move anywhere from where we were dropped off. So I'm like, we got to get a move on, let's go. And this old lady comes out, and she's the sweetest lady I've ever met. She was so sweet, but she goes, "Are you guys doing community service and picking weeds?" And at first I'm like, "No, we're just picking up trash." And right away I started walking because I was like, we need to get away from here to show that we actually like did something, that we picked up the trash. And thank God for Abby. Abby's like, "Of course we can pick up the weeds for you." And right now, if I could go back in time, I would yell at myself. I'm like, this old lady asked you to pick up her weeds, and you're like, nah, she's got it herself. This lady could barely walk. She had a walker. I was ridiculous. And so, and again, just being a servant and going out of your comfort zone and just not focusing on the task, I think is important, because we were able to pick the weeds. And by the time that we were picked up, we were able to pray for her, learn what she was going through, show the love of God, and she was so appreciative for it. It was amazing. And that's just because Abby was so focused on the purpose instead of the task, which goes back into the mall, because in the mall, I was focused on the task of reaching as many people as I could throughout the mall and going further and further. But if I just focused on the purpose, which was being there, discipling people, seeing how I could pray for them, then I would have been aware of the situation and be able to pray with them. So I just think that's another cool thing is, yes, the task is important no matter what, because the task is so picking up trash. Obviously, that's an important thing. It would have made an impact. But the purpose of you being there is to make a difference and bring Jesus' light into the community. So I think that is definitely more important, and I would not let the purpose overshadow the task, because if you go in with the purpose as your mindset, then you would make so much more change than if you were just doing the task. So I'm going to pray in a few minutes, but as I pray, I want you to think about a few things. I want you to think about how you can serve and what you can do to show God's love to everyone. So it's amazing to serve in the sound booth, on the worship team, be a greeter, do check-in, and do Kingdom Kids. Those are amazing things. But like I said earlier, we have this huge mission field outside of the church. We have our workplace. We have our schools. We have our homes. We have people and family members that don't know God, and those are perfect opportunities to serve. And what that looks like is just being open to God, being open for the opportunities that He has, and following through with it. Because the simplest thing, like picking up trash, led us to talking to that old lady and praying with her and sharing the gospel. At the mall, being aware, because of Abby, led us to praying with that couple, which is just amazing. So always be open for those opportunities and always pray to God what that looks like. And like I said earlier, the simplest tasks make people question why you're doing it. So again, going back to picking up trash, like in school, you see this piece of trash and people all the time overlook it. No, because you didn't drop it, so nobody expects you to do it. So when people see you go out of your way to pick it up and throw it away, students notice it, even teachers notice that. Teachers are like, why would he do that? Why would he go out of his way, even though it was not his, and throw it away? And like I said earlier, that will lead people to question you, and that's just a gate that's opened up that allows you to talk to them, which I think is just amazing. And so as I'm praying, I want you to think of people that you can serve as well, people that you sit next to every day in work, at your school, and that you can minister to them about Jesus, share the love and the gospel, and just be an overall servant and being open to every opportunity that God has throughout the day. Even the simplest tasks, like I said, going out of your way to pick up trash, people notice that. People notice the simplest task, going out of your way to talk with someone and ask if they're okay, seeing if they need help with anything, they notice that. Giving someone a ride, they notice that. People will question you because the simplest acts, because nobody else is doing it, which is crazy. I mean, picking up trash is the easiest thing, but not everyone does it, so that leads them to question it. Like I said, giving people rides. I've had opportunities to tell people, because they question why I do that. I give people rides, and they say, why do you do this? I mean, no one else has done that. What people say, what's wrong with you? And honestly, that's just, like I said, a gate opened up to share the gospel and to share Jesus. So let's pray. Dear God, I thank you for tonight. I just thank you for all that you've done for us and the amazing opportunities that you give us in order to be a servant for you. God, I pray that throughout this week and after tonight, that we're able to be more open-minded and be ready for whatever you have prepared for us. God, again, I just thank you for all the people that you put in our lives, and I just thank you for where we're at today because you placed servants in our lives that led us to where we are today. God, I just pray that we can be those servants to other people and that we can lead more people towards you. I thank you for this group of people, and I just pray that after tonight we're able to leave with a servanthood mindset and what that looks like. In your name I pray.